earned an undergraduate degree in architecture from the Universidad de Valle. He also has a Master of Science in Architecture degree from MIT. Gabriel.
And Chrysler department chairs, members of the faculty and the staff, and fellow graduating students, ladies and gentlemen. I'm feel very honored to have been chosen as the graduate student speaker, and I hope I will represent well those who are graduating today with me. Today is Mother's Day, and as such is a day to celebrate family and to honor those who have been by our side all these years. I would especially like to mention my father, who never reached the American dream, but if there were anything called the Colombian dream, I think he would be the perfect representative. A self-made man, the son of a black woman, and somebody who in the village everybody fondly called El Gringo. We don't know who he was in my family because when my father was very little, about 4, he left and he never came back. And by then my grandmother had died, so very little my father became an orphan, and nobody took full responsibility of his care. So soon after he became a homeless kid, a street kid, like many kids were in Colombia in past decades. However, he overcame his fate, he made his way through school, he went to college and graduated with a professional degree as a chemist. Back in the 1960s, his company offered him the opportunity to come to the United States and work, but because of several reasons, he had to decline. So when I came to the States for grad school in 2002, he kept repeating, and he still does, "You are doing in the United States what I was supposed to do." And I think by that he meant that he was supposed to come here and succeed, but for several reasons he couldn't. This is not a special story because there are many here, like me, who are the sons and daughters of parents who couldn't reach their dreams. And today they are seeing those dreams materialized in their children. Because of that, I would like to offer congratulations to our first generation college graduates, those who are the first ones in their families. You know, the most valuable promise this country offers for people who come here is, in most cases, more than the prospect of being wealthy, is the prospect of getting a good education. And parents of immigrant children treasure that ideal and want that so much for their children. We often don't notice that because the problems that first generation students have to go through, this is something that they often undergo very privately. But they are not the only ones who have made a special effort. I think most of us are leaving school now with after having made a huge economic effort. This country is in fact dealing, as we all know, with a huge student debt crisis, but that's only one of very particular situations that we are undergoing. This past year we have seen how all around the world economic, social, political paradigms are being contested. This is the year of the Occupy movement. So this is certainly not an ordinary amnesty. It is definitely a very interesting moment for us to be graduating, and it makes me wonder how we as professionals will relate to this historical moment we are living. Design-related professions have in fact embraced with great enthusiasm the social concerns, and especially in my discipline, in architecture, we have fallen in love with the idea of helping the other working for the social good and designing for underserved communities. But this is a discourse that some of us, people who were born, raised, and struggle in the third world, sometimes feel uncomfortable with, because it sounds like a neo-missionary, neo-colonialist discourse. And I know this is very academic, but let me explain you with a personal story. So when I was trying to come up with a topic for my dissertation, I wanted to study green imperialism. My advisor, Nezar Al-Sayed, confronted me saying, what's the point of studying imperialism in architecture if architecture is per se imperialist? Of course, if you have studied with Nezar, you know that he didn't say it like that. He did it faster, stronger, and in tougher words. But what he meant was that historically, the architect has sided with the wealthy and with the powerful. But today there is a new generation of architects who are contesting the status quo, challenging that paradigm and pledging to help the poor. So in theory, this represents an anti-imperialist stance and a challenge to the status quo in architecture. However, some of us still think that some projects of helping others in impoverished third world communities often simply represent the status quo, simply in different terms, when they tend to perpetuate dependency and outside intervention. Yet again, there is great excitement among our undergrads for this approach, and I know that because I work very closely to undergrads for about 4 years. I was at GSI, and then for the past 3 years I have been an instructor of record. So this brings me to think I should offer a last piece of advice for our undergrads graduating today and those who want to go into the social architectural practice. And the advice would be, think about empowerment beyond design as the main goal. The architect should be somebody who empowers communities so they don't need architects anymore. And so they can design their own solutions at their own pace and using their own resources, and perhaps, ideally in the future, through their own community architects, people who, like many of you, are able to come to college and graduate as the first one in their families. Now, this is of course a provocation, because the question would be, and if people don't need us, then what are we going to do? How are we going to make money? Well, I think that is a good exercise and something we should definitely think, because in the current economic situation, and at least at the beginning of our careers, that could be the situation that we face as professionals. I always told my students that design-related professions, architecture, urban design, landscape architecture, visual arts, and in particular architecture, are very dependent on economic ups and downs, because when people have money, they hire an architect. If they don't, they hire a contractor to get the thing done quickly, cheaply, and faster. So, embracing the idea that people would not need us architects and embracing it as a normal fact in our profession is a good exercise, because it forces us to stay creative. It forces us to be creative about what to do in the case in which we don't get any contracts. And I think design school has effectively prepared us for that. We have learned many things over these years in design school, but there is one that is going to stay with us, and it is how to think creatively. We might forget about many other things, but that, even by the force of repetition, will stay. We were thinking creatively throughout our studio and throughout our writing day after day over several years. So I am confident that we have received the best preparation to succeed even in a difficult economy, because we have been prepared to problem solve by thinking creatively. Now, and with this I end, the time has come for us to put that creativity to work. All these years in the school will pay off in the end.
now my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Emily Milliton.